I'm really pleased to introduce our next speaker, Padman Perumal, the CEO of Masttro Americas, and he's here to discuss consumer-grade digital experience in wealth management. Masttro is a Swiss-based, privately held fintech company, and Padman's drawing on his deep background in industry, and he's prepared a fascinating talk on the changes wrought by digital transformation in wealth management. Welcome, Padman.
Kathleen, thank you very much. I really appreciate that kind introduction. Thank you to the NYU Stern team for this opportunity. It really has been a great day and a great honor to be here with some great minds that are reshaping financial services industry and learning from these experts. As Kathleen said, we're a global wealth management technology company. We have clients around the globe, and we're happy to. What I wanted to do today with all of you is share some perspectives on what we are seeing in the evolution of this technology in the wealth management space, and take a look at it from not only from a wealth management professional's standpoint, but also look at it from a wealth management, wealth owner's perspective, and try to see how technology still can continue to, reshape some of that experience. With that, I'm going to share my slides here. You all can see it. Technology has been the greatest enabler and disruptor. I think that is something that we all can agree with and attest to, as we have been experiencing the compounding effect of technology advancement. That we've all been through over our lifetime here. For centuries, I think mankind has leveraged technology, and the power of the technology, when it's combined with and guided with humans, has really produced the most powerful outcomes, right? And let's take a look at some of that evolution and that transformation. I wanted to share with you 3 examples and touch on the theme of these 3 examples: space travel, digital revolution, and electric vehicles, right? So what is the connecting theme to these 3 topics? Really, technology has played a significant role in reshaping each and every aspect of this industry and what some of these things have done to us as humans, right? Space travel, 60 years, when NASA put the first astronauts in the moon, I think they spent somewhere close to $28 billion, and that translates to about $25,000 per kg on a payload. And if you translate that to what SpaceX has done with space travel, space travel tourism is a fascinating, evolving industry, just like Defy is. The cost per payload per kg is $200. So you can see not only it has given huge amount of productivity, but it's also given access. But that evolution took 60 years. Now, if you look at digital revolution, how internet and smartphones and social media has really transformed not only how we live, how we interact with each other, how we make decisions, almost everything and anything that we do today has been, revolutionized and changed, in the last, 2 decades, 25 years. So what we are seeing a theme here is that pace of change, not only the magnitude of change is becoming bigger and bigger, but the pace of change is getting faster and faster. So what has taken 60 years for space travel, so 25 years on digital revolution. And if you look at electric vehicles, just in the last 10 years, I think the stat was in 2010, there were about 17,000 electric vehicles in the entire world that were been driven by, individuals. And as of 2019 year end, that number was 7.2 million. So that's only in 10 years, right? I think if you look fast forward that for another 5 years, or 10 years, I think this thing was each one of these topics will continue to evolve, and DeFi is sort of in that same same bucket. As Matt Harris said, there is this, I love this page about this FinTech evolution 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. Now, if you really take a closer look at home, which is banking and financial services industry, it seems to continue to evolve. And this is a little older than space travel or digital revolution. We've been around for over 400 years, or maybe even more. And we have seen a massive amount of, shift in change in this space, right? So we have seen some areas where we have seen like we've made tremendous amount of progress. And there are areas where, on the other hand, there still feels like there is a little bit more work to do. But in spite of that, we have made significant progress, right? We talked about some of this, in our discussions, panelists earlier today. Just take consumer banking as an example. How we bank as consumers today has changed significantly. The way we save, the way we borrow, the way we transact, the way we interact with the bank. I mean, there is massive amount of change, predominantly driven by consumer-driven digital experience technologies that has truly given scale and productivity to both the consumers as well as to the banks. Despite the banking industry being around for 400 years, like looking at a little bit on the other side of the coin, we have about little over 50% of Americans, owning, true investments, right, in stocks and bonds or in whatever form you want to detect. That is 60 years after the S&P 500 index was introduced. Now, this percentage is only going to rapidly increase in the next 10 years by a point that is more than what happened in the last 50 years. Again, supported by the pace of change and the compounding effect of the technology innovation. And we're already seeing some of that in the form of wealth accumulation. Rising equity markets and government stimulus, et cetera, has really drove the high net worth individual growth rate, both in terms of number of individuals as well as in terms of their total net worth across the globe. North America and Asia certainly is in the lead, in terms of that market share. And this is a little bit of a breakdown of how that high net worth segment breaks down. And what you can see here is also the year over year growth that you see here is, is continuing to increase at a pretty high single digit percentages. So what we're seeing is that as these wealth continues to accumulate over, across the globe, the deployable dollars, that will be invested across a spectrum of asset types. And not only what we want to see, what you see in the chart as these legacy assets, which is your stocks and bonds and mutual funds and fixed income, but what we're seeing is that over 70% of high net worth individuals are already invested some portion of their assets in some of the newer asset types, such as cryptocurrencies or other new digital assets and luxury assets. With this level of diversification and the emergence of new asset class, technology needs to keep up, in providing that investor, the wealth owner, or the end high net worth individuals with real-time transparency in one consolidated view, to really meet the risk management needs for today's sophisticated investors. And I think that is where we feel that both the incumbents as well as some of the innovators in this space have a little bit more work to do. And this is where we feel like we may be in the tail end of FinTech 1.0 and entering somewhat of a FinTech 2.0. But despite this need for having that full transparency in a consolidated view across that full balance sheet, it has been extremely difficult for the wealth owner and the ecosystem around that wealth owner to have that single glass pane view. The wealth owners and the advisors continue to suffer from this fragmentation, which essentially deals with, a lot of manual. So if we talk to tons of clients, and I'm sure you as a consumer will experience it, what is your total net worth? What are my cash flow needs? Whether irrespective of whether your net worth is $100,000 or whether your net worth is, $100 million, there is not one place you can go to find that answer. There is not one person you can talk to get that answer. It does still require, in this day and age of technology, right? You could push a button and it'll open up your garage, turn your Tesla on, and it'll pull it up and warm it up for you and ready to go for you at 6:30 in the morning. But at the same time, what you can't see in your Tesla is that how did your assets perform yesterday, or is it performing now? So there is a little bit more work to do in this space, and I think this ultimately is leading to what we call the 80% problem, or the 80% answer. And it continues to disengaged or unengaged wealth owners. There is decision making is becoming extremely hard. When you don't have that full picture of your total net worth. Wealth management, especially in the high net worth individual space, will remain a hyper personalized and human-led service. We have seen both, large banks or financial institutions, as well as new entrants, try to find their optimum role. They both have done really well, but it is clear that this will be a hyper personalized but a human-led service. And what these firms need to understand is how do they tackle these challenges and the emerging needs of their clients, and offer them this total view of their wealth. I think with the accumulation of wealth globally, as we talked about, the sophisticated investor, would want to protect and preserve their wealth, but it is impossible for anybody to do it with the 80% answer. And now, so this problem is an industry-wide problem. And how do you think about solving for that industry-wide problem? How do we think about getting to that 100% of an answer? I think that 100% of the answer is, as we said, it will be critical. And this is something that, there are a lot of new wealth management technology, innovators in this space looking to solve this problem. And this is a space that we have spent an enormous amount of time and are very passionate about trying to bring that 100% answer to both not only the wealth owners, but also the wealth management professionals. So let me tell you a little bit about how you get there. So what does it take to get to that 100%? When we started this journey, we sort of established ourselves these three fundamental principles. And three fundamental principles are non-negotiable, or sort of our true north. First and foremost is we want to make sure that the wealth owner is in control of the end result, or an end product, or an end solution. And you need to create this from the view of that wealth owner, from the view of the ultimate stakeholder. And I think that's essentially critical. And the second thing is that you want to look to solve for an total balance sheet answer. You're not trying to get an information on, let me see how my equities and my liquid investments are doing, or I want a list of my real estate holdings, or I want to know how my crypto investments are doing. No, you want to understand what your total net worth is, and ensure that that data, you have a golden source repository of that information that represents your total net worth, your full estate. And last but not least, you want to make sure that that information is delivered both to the wealth owners, these individuals, as well as the wealth management professionals, in a highly secure environment that has the data security protocols and the necessary data privacy to protect and control what's been the lifetime earnings for all these individuals. So let me tell you a little bit about our technology platform. As we said, we deliver our platform as a software as a service. What we have been trying to do with it, with our platform, is to provide our users with the complete picture on demand across every asset, every banking relationship, currency, and different geographies, and make it available to not only the wealth owner but also to the wealth management professionals at their fingertips from anywhere and any device. That's very, very important. And by serving this need, the sophisticated investors across, several, we have about 28 countries where we have clients, and they rely on the Masttro platform, just like they do with Google, Apple, Spotify, or Netflix, you name it, to conduct their daily lives. As one of our clients once said, Masttro is a platform that they rely on for transparency, and it is the platform that is going to keep them rich, not make them rich, which I thought was very interesting, perspective. Here's a few, images of how that information is available. As you can see in the far right, it's a dashboard that essentially brings the total net worth and across different asset classes. And what you see in the far left is a quick exposure of where the assets are based on the different geography. And, obviously the users can, zoom in and zoom out and click and get to the holdings, et cetera, in the interactive platform. What is important to us is tying it back to that consumer grade digital experience. When designing the platform, we strongly believe that we need to design it from the lens of the end user and focus on their convenience, enjoyment, and derived value of using the platform. If we're able to bring that sort of the principle and mindset, I think you can truly achieve, these kinds of, deliver the consumer grade experience to something that is very complex, but it can be made very easily digestible and simple. Let me quickly show you a little video.
Masttro connects you to every institution, every asset, every transaction. It allows instant access to even your most sensitive documents while preserving them in a secure, confidential environment. With Masttro, you have a complete oversight of your personal affairs like never before. Customize your experience for an even greater sense of control. Improve communication with your family, banks, and advisors so they can serve you better. Masttro provides the necessary transparency, integration, and communication to enable you to educate your family and prepare it for the challenges ahead, preserving your legacy as the years go by.
Thank you. Just to close it out, as the company, we are able to, bring this fresh perspective and a strong point of view, to the market because of our team. We're more than a wealth management technology company. We are relentless innovators and long-term partners to our wealth management professionals that we empower, across the globe. And memorable consumer-grade technology is valuable and enjoyable. And our position is that wealth management industry needs to adopt this standard for today's investors and wealth management professionals, and continue to, prepare both the industry, continue to prepare the industry as a whole to embark and embrace on some of the future, innovations and disruptions that is going to come, to these individuals. Because at the end of the day, as financial services and wealth management continues to evolve at a faster pace, this experience of what the end users see and get on a day-to-day basis needs to keep up with that pace. And with so that I think is an extremely important dimension that we need to continue to focus on and deliver. And that's what our point of view is, and that's what we're doing here at Masttro. With that, I will turn it over back to Kathleen.
Thank you very much, Padman. That was super interesting, and just put a little context around it. I think for those of you that haven't been working deeply in the investment management tech stack, there's only until recently has there been actually a fully integrated end-to-end process or reporting available for those investing in the space. So really interesting presentation, and obviously goes hand in hand with the mainstreaming of ownership of crypto and alternative assets by both everyday investors and ultra high net worth investors. So very interesting story about Masttro. Thank you. Thank you, Padman.
Thank you.